It's a long list, the university starters in what's turned out to be a highly competitive year.
This year there's much more interest in universities, both in the state and also for the University of Newcastle. Our popularity's gone up, which is a wonderful thing for the university and for the community.
But it does mean some very disappointed people who've missed out on a place. For them and other prospective students, the university staged an advisory day this afternoon to answer the question, what now?
It absolutely isn't the end of the world. There's lots of other options.
The Open Foundation program and TAFE courses among the pathways to future university education. This year, more than half of the places offered were to non-school leavers, those returning to study after a break. There are 81 programs for study at Newcastle, the most popular courses reflecting demand in the community.
The two prime areas that the government are very keen to fill, which are teaching and nursing, are key courses for us, and they have done particularly well again this year.
First round offers must be accepted by Wednesday, with university to start with orientation week at the end of next month.
A gaping hole in the ceiling is a very visual reminder of the Youngs' ordeal. Late yesterday, Darren, Desley and their 5 children were getting ready to go out when a man fell through the ceiling.
I just heard a big crash and the kids just screaming. And I ran out and I just saw a man face down on the floor.
Fearful for their children's safety, the couple sprang into action.
He was on the ground below us, so we grabbed a couple of big ornaments and stood over the top of him, threatened him to get out of the house away from the kids. So we worked him out the back door, and my 2 good neighbours were here in a split second. We had him surrounded and the police were here within 10 minutes.
Police believe the man had been hiding in the roof for 2 hours, but why he chose to break in during the day and while 7 people were at home is unclear.
That's probably the biggest point of unease. We don't know, exactly what he was doing there.
The family is so traumatised by the event, they're planning to move out as soon as possible.
It was just terrifying. It was terrifying. I mean, you can look back at it and it's probably a bit humorous now, but at the time, and the kids are having nightmares and they can't sleep, so it's been hard.
The man, who police believe may have been carrying a knife, is in John Hunter Hospital under police guard with a broken arm. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
At 7:30 this morning, tree loppers were due at North Rothbury Playground to cut down the 5 large gums that overhang the park, considered a safety risk to local children. But they got a last-minute stay of execution thanks to residents rallying at last night's council meeting.
They gave us an assurance that Rothbury is no longer the forgotten little village.
Well, I'm trying to protect it for all the kids for the future so that they have somewhere to go, because this is all that they have.
Council will get another expert to look at the trees and the results will be shared with the community before anything happens.
We don't dispute that the trees need attention, but they also need to be there for shade. Take the trees away and you might as well take the play equipment away.
The residents want to see the park cleaned up and the old tennis court that was last year saved from a sell-off by People Power restored. Council will meet with the community next month to start developing a plan for the site's future.
When we do have the master plan, that allows us then to develop our 3 to 5 year budgets.
The residents are moving a little faster. They're meeting tomorrow to draw up a list of priorities, including a new fence, extra seating, a barbecue area and irrigation to water the grass. Penny Evans, NBN News.
A final walk through Williamtown Public School, and it was time for 9-year-old David Parsons and 11-year-old Jordan Butterfield to say goodbye.
I will miss the school, so
What will you miss about it?
Everything. I'm pretty sad.
The boys are two of only 4 students to enrol at the school this year. The dwindling pupil numbers means the historic facility won't reopen for 2009.
End of an era. Actually, end of 146 years of education at Williamtown, if it's 146 is the right number.
A few community members and former staff gathered in the grounds today to reminisce about days gone by.
We had kids from all over the world here. We had some wonderful children through many years, so yeah, quite an emotional thing.
The school's closure is indicative of the town's changing demographic and shrinking population.
The joke about Williamtown goes that really they'll have to rename Williamtown because you can't call it Williamtown when the town's gone, they'll have to call it William.
A school reunion at the site is being organised for later this year.
We've planned it for October, by which time the fate of the school will be sealed or decided.
At Mayamari's Eva House, girls that have been through the program become the carers for other survivors.
So there's a real sense of safety and understanding out here, and there's just nothing else like it.
There is a way out, you can heal, and it's life-changing.
It's a totally different approach to mental health, dealing with people often with drug, alcohol and self-harm problems caused by childhood demons.
What the government's doing at the moment to address that, it just isn't enough. All they seem to want to do is put these girls away in psychiatric institutions and medicate them, and we just don't think it works.
That's why we've got to work on building a better appreciation in Canberra of the good work they're doing.
Now the group hopes having a voice in Cabinet might lead to more understanding and dollars. They want $200,000 for a university research project looking at their success.
Because once we prove the model works, which we know after 10 years, then we can go to corporate, then we can go to other people and say, this is the way to help young people truly heal.
I'll make sure the likes of Jenny Macklin, Nicola Roxon fully appreciate the work Liz is doing out there and hopefully give some consideration to some further funding support.
The centre is already at stretching point and despite generous donations needs about $80,000 in government support each year to cover a quarter of its costs.
Until we're able to get what we need, we just have to just run on what we have and not give up.
We never want to become a government-funded organisation because it's very important that survivors own this place and that survivors run this place.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
They missed out on any W-League end-of-season awards, but the Jets certainly weren't overlooked for national team selection. 5 players feature in the squad, from the most experienced in Cheryl Salisbury to the freshest face, 15-year-old Emily Van Egmond.
I was taken by surprise when my name was in the 20.
The daughter of Jets coach Gary has clearly benefited from a season playing alongside her experienced teammates and possibly some coaching tips from Dad.
I don't want to say that and give him a big head, but nah, it's all right when he comes in.
Van Egmond's aspirations of playing in the US will only be boosted if she makes her senior international debut.
Hopefully if I do get on, just come off at the end of the game knowing I did my best and hopefully that we won.
From a player just starting out to a long-serving Matilda who could be pulling on the green and gold for the last time. Joey Peters hasn't played an international for 12 months, but she's looking forward to helping Australia improve its world ranking.
Absolutely love it, love playing with the other best players in the country. There's nothing like it, so it's a special occasion every time you go out there.
The players agree the W-League has provided the perfect platform for young players such as Emily and Amber Nielsen to cement their national spots.
You get to prove yourself week in, week out that you can compete at the highest level that we have to offer.
The Matildas meet Italy on January 31 and February 7. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Perfect conditions for the morning players led to plenty of subpar rounds. The internationals were out to prove they could match it with the Aussies, and Scotland's Gordon Yates was showing plenty of promise. A first round 2 under par 70 has him well placed heading into day 2. Yates' playing partner, South Australia's Max McArdle, wasn't enjoying his first Lake Macquarie International quite as much. 3 over after 9 holes. Some impressive approach shots led to birdie opportunities, but the putter was off target as he finished 4 over the card. Completing their trio, local junior and pre-tournament favourite Brendan Smith. After finding Belmont's unique rough on the 8th, Smith recovered to grab par. On the 10th, he had this for eagle but eventually settled for birdie, going on to complete a first round 3 under 69. New Zealand's Daniel Pearce also impressed on day 1, finishing at 2 under. As always, not everyone found the Belmont course so forgiving, but no matter how bad the round was going, the view was always there to be admired. The tournament continues tomorrow. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Most of my songs, especially this album, is incredibly personal and real and true, and that's embarrassing at times, but you know, it's honest.
Kurri Kurri residents united in their fight.
We're not going to allow anyone to take away this hospital.
And quite frankly, taking an ED away from Kurri Kurri Hospital is a ludicrous situation.
Back off and don't touch the hospital. We need it very bad.
Last year, the Garling report flagged closing Kurri Hospital's emergency department to save state government dollars, stating patients could be treated at either Maitland or Cessnock. That proposal sparked today's outrage.
It's life and death between here and Maitland or Cessnock, making all the difference.
Nearly an hour after the rally started, John Della Bosca finally arrived. But not before 2 people suffered heat stress and had to be taken away by ambulance. The minister tried to placate concerns, but in the end left without offering any guarantees. He's expected to announce the hospital's fate in March. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
For more than 20 years, Barry Rose's life centred around Scone. Today, the town made him the centre of attention. Friends and colleagues spoke of a man devoted to his horses and the harness industry, his wife Jan, and of course the community he represented.
He was passionate about his council. He was passionate about the rural areas of the Shire, the farmers, the graziers, the horse studs, his towns and villages, and the people he unselfishly served in a lifetime of dedication.
It is a beautiful part of the world. It was his part of the world. It was his realm, his kingdom.
A letter of praise from Alan Jones urging Barry to prevail in his fight against cancer, another sign of the respect he commanded.
Sometimes people are never told these things when they should be.
He faced his own demise, as he did his life before him, with dignity and humility.
If you don't see somebody for 2 years, you still know them. And I ask you to still know Barry. Thanks, Barry.
Staff formed a guard of honour as Barry's own piano playing lilted out of the church. The council plans to name part of the new administration building in his honour.
Escaping the heat was as big a challenge as shooting low scores at Belmont today, and every scrap of shade became prime real estate. And sights like this made it no easier for spectators and players alike who were teased by the neighbouring beach. Robert Payne's day was anything but. Somewhat undercover, the veteran of the amateur ranks was having a day to remember. A 6-under par 66 moved him to 9-under for the tournament, and in a field such as this, no one was more surprised than he.
If you'd have said I was going to shoot that, I wouldn't have believed you, but I played well yesterday too, and the putts went in today.
Now based in Orange, the former Charlestown golfer has never won here in this, his 30th attempt, and surely he must be a chance now.
You've got to enjoy the ride. I don't expect to win the damn thing, but I'll just go out there and play my best.
Arthur Gabella-Wen had a day out too. A 65 has him 7-under, but all the talk was about his hole-in-one on 5.
Grabbed my 6 iron and hit him just a wonderful shot. So, and when I see the ball get in the hole, it was fantastic.
Consistency was an issue for many, especially in the heat. Dimitrios Papadakis showed some brilliance, but his putter let him down more than once. Belmont's own Australian representative Brendan Smith is the best of the locals at 6-under with another round of 69.
Throughout the good times and the bad times, the challenging times, Barry maintained his integrity. He commanded respect whilst respecting the position of others. He always played a straight bat.
If it hadn't been for the fire alarm, there's no indication of how else the lady would have found out about the fire and evacuated by herself.
In the past 48 hours alone, 2 people have died of suspected heroin overdoses in Newcastle.
We haven't seen this many overdoses, in the past 2 years.
And the number of people overdosing on the drug is steadily growing.
Officers are saying that, in their block of shifts, they're attending 1 to 2 heroin overdoses in the Newcastle area.
Newcastle ambulance officers can't explain the increase, but suspect an unusually strong batch could be on the streets, coupled with a rising demand for the drug.
There's a bit of anecdotal evidence. Maybe other drugs are a bit more expensive at the moment than what heroin is. Maybe users deciding to go back to a drug that they have previously used.
Ambos say it's vital they're called as soon as someone overdoses because often they have just minutes to reach the patient.
When we do arrive, the patient in most cases has stopped breathing, and with a very short time to follow after that, their heart will stop as well.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Joel Griffiths has been headline news all week as his management tries to strike a deal to suit all parties involved for him to earn big money playing in Beijing alongside younger brother Ryan. Although unable to confirm his immediate future today, there's one thing he could clarify.
One of the headlines was that I wanted to leave. That was totally not the case. I said that it's hard to knock back offers that I've received from Chinese clubs that are significantly higher than what I'm getting at the Jets.
And that's what's driving a potential move for both he, teammate Mark Milligan, and a host of other A-League players who are being targeted by cashed-up overseas clubs.
The Asian invasion, isn't it? I mean, I'm not the only coach going through this. We're a cheap option for
quality players. The salary cap has reduced the amount of money that the boys can earn here in Australia.
Offering up to 3 to 4 times as much, Griffiths dares anyone not to at least think about that sort of life-changing financial windfall.
If they put themselves in my shoes, I think it would be really hard for themselves to give up deals like that as well. Any Jets fans want to judge me on how loyal I am, then, you know, I'm at training here. They can come up and face me if they want.
Injury will keep Griffiths from playing in tomorrow's A-League season-ending game against Sydney FC, and as much as the Jets remain firm he's not for sale, it's unlikely Asian clubs will give up their pursuit in a hurry.
Malcolm Turnbull says he's not clutching at straws, but believes what we do with straw and other agricultural byproducts could be the key to reducing Australia's carbon footprint. Crucible Carbon, a Newcastle-based business, has developed an energy-efficient way of turning chaff, wood chips and other waste, which would otherwise be burnt off or left to decompose, into charcoal or biochar that can be utilised by farmers.
We'll actually stop that CO2 going to the atmosphere and put it back in the ground.
This is a real win-win in terms of renewable energy, regeneration of land qualities and an increase in agricultural outputs.
The opposition leader believes it has unlimited potential.
It will create thousands of jobs, but it has been completely neglected by the Rudd government's CPRS, by its emissions trading scheme.
The technology has also attracted the interest of major carbon producers, which want biochar to be eligible for carbon credits so they can earn offsets while reducing their own emissions.
We can't get them down fast enough with existing technology. So we're looking to promote other technologies that get Australia's emissions down and therefore sustain our business for longer.
The company is developing its prototype into a commercial plant. Penny Evans, NBN News.
Our compelling reasons are our economy thrives on tourism, rural residential lifestyle. We have a mine, we deal with that, it's part of our economic fabric, but we don't want to become a mining town.
Little separates Brendan Smith and Scott Arnold on or off the course. Smith housed his good mate this week and the pair began the final day just a stroke apart. By the fourth, they were level at 10 under after Smith's near-perfect approach. Michael Smythe was having an up-and-down day, but this wasn't a bad way to make birdie. Just as Englishman Charles Ford began drifting away from the two leaders, he made his presence felt with some superb touch. Not since Phil Billing in 1974 has a Belmont golfer won the International. But that sort of pressure was the last thing Smith needed on his shoulders, especially with Arnold moving 2 shots ahead at the turn with successive birdies on 8 and 9. Edging further ahead on the run home, Arnold survived a scare on the 15th to finish a 3-shot winner and deny Smith possibly his last chance of winning the prestigious amateur event.
I'd like to see, Simons and Punter after playing 12 one-day games continuous and see how they come up.
The University of Newcastle's laureate professor Rob Sanson-Fisher received one of the nation's highest awards, becoming an Officer of the Order of Australia for his work helping Indigenous students become doctors.
To be honest, I feel really surprised, really honoured and really grateful to the people that I've worked with.
Former Maitland Labor MP John Price was appointed a member of the Order of Australia for service to Parliament. Dedication to the community was a common link, with locals recognised for years of volunteer work or commitment to industry. Swimmer Angie Bainbridge noted for her Beijing gold medal with an OAM. And if there was an award for being humble, surely Lambton Meals on Wheels volunteer of 43 years Grace Woolcock deserves it. The 80-year-old Order of Australia medalist saying it's an award for the whole team.
Well, I think it's a marvellous organisation. We help so many poor things that can't sort of get out and do their own thing.
Whether it was a picnic with family and friends or a barbecue for a good cause, the hunter had no trouble celebrating all things green and gold, the passion evident amongst some of our newest citizens, hundreds taking the oath around the region. These swimmers showed some true Aussie spirit, plunging into Newcastle Harbour for the annual Stockton Swim. Lucky for one crew in the Raymond Terrace Can raft race that the SES didn't take the day off. Surely the shipwright will be sacked. Aussie ingenuity also showed through at King Edward Park with some homemade fun. And tonight, homegrown country music queen Catherine Britt is wowing crowds on the Newcastle foreshore.
It was Mad Monday Australia Day style for the Newcastle Jets, and there was just about everything, from the questionable to the downright bizarre. After a season of few highlights, today provided plenty of laughs, and Joel Griffiths had every reason to smile after Jets owner Con Constantine rubber-stamped a loan deal for him to join Beijing Groen, a move which will net Newcastle $500,000 and Griffiths almost 3 times his current salary.
That's a win-win for us, and it's a win-win for me. So I just hope they don't see this footage because they might change their mind.
It's a complicated arrangement, with Griffiths not to play against Newcastle in the Asian Champions League and set to return at the year's end to resume his career with the Jets.
I just hope there's no ill feelings with the supporters, because I'm sure they're disappointed.
They had to have been last night watching this. Adam Griffiths was replaced at half-time, and while contracted for Newcastle's initial ACL matches, it's unclear if he'll remain that long. If there was a piece of play that summed up their final match of the season, this had to be it. Another mistake, and then a deflection, taking Sydney 3-0 up. Before former Jet Mark Bridge added the final blow to leave Newcastle in a demoralised state with the ACL just 6 weeks away and even less time to buy new players. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Just started a thing called Oz Cycle, which is very similar to Oz Swim, and it's just about teaching kids how to ride safely on the road.
The real trouble began here at the Nelson Bay Cinema Complex just before 3 p.m, when 6 people, most from the same family and including a 15-year-old girl, allegedly got into a fight with staff after they were asked to leave. Police arrived and aggression levels escalated. Officers allege a 40-year-old man involved in the brawl assaulted a female police officer and tried to steal her gun.
Well, that's the allegation, and it's very dangerous. For the fact that someone did try to do that. We'd hate to think what would have happened had that person been able to obtain the gun.
Today, Sean Morrow from Anna Bay appeared before Raymond Terrace Local Court after being charged over the incident. He's been refused bail and will reappear next month. Little Beach was another problem area where a large group of teenagers had gathered.
They just kept getting infiltrated by a number of people that were intoxicated that tried to stir the pot up and get in amongst people and push people around.
6 people were arrested during Australia Day celebrations in Nelson Bay. A further 21 were issued with fines for drinking liquor in alcohol-free zones, while 15 were given move-along orders for antisocial behaviour. Police say underage binge drinking has become a huge problem in Port Stephens.
It is a big concern for us. It seems to be a common factor, whether it's in Raymond Terrace or in Nelson Bay or Tanilba Bay, that these young people are getting alcohol from somewhere.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Newcastle Council's newest set of nostrils was today installed at a secret location for a 2-month trial.
This will enable us with the police to have targeted activities where we can actually perhaps catch people in the act.
The e-nose detects spray paint chemicals in the air, sending an alarm to security in seconds.
So before the person's finished spraying, there'll be the heavy hand of the law upon their shoulder.
If successful, the $10,000 project could be expanded.
I want to be clear about the benefit because there are other tools that we can use, so we're looking at a mix of approaches.
It comes as Australia's leading architect Glenn Murcutt visited the city, criticising the hold-up in redeveloping the old post office building.
Needs to get going and something done with it. No further delays. I understand it's had delays. I think that there are very, very important regulatory things that need to be exercised.
He was in town to launch a nation-first after-school program that's not necessarily just aiming to breed more architects.
If we can get good clients, then we're likely to get good architecture. You know, mediocrity starts with a cultural base.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
The road is there to share, and so too, it seems, is this. Blue Gum Hills Regional Park at Minmai is now the target of hunter cyclists, with an idea to construct a 2-kilometre track through the area, half sealed, half gravel, for professionals and amateurs, pedestrians too.
If it was put there, we could certainly maintain it. But the 5 clubs just couldn't put it there themselves.
Enter Wallsend MP Sonia Hornery. The National Parks run land falls within her electorate.
It would be about me working with the state government to ensure that there was funding for the practical proposals for the road servicing and so on.
Yesterday's charity event on Kooragang Island shows just how many cyclists are going around.
We seem to be getting older people in the 40s and over, and they come in by the droves and really enjoy the cycling. But it's the kids we're not getting in.
And why would any parent push cycling when the consequences are so severe and so frequent?
You only need one accident with a motor car and she's over.
As a recreational cyclist myself, I know how much safer it is for people to be able to cycle off-road.
Ms Hornery is sure the Green Movement will support the concept as well, which takes into account a future expansion should the initial proposal go ahead. Adam McIlrick, NBN News. Chelsea Ruthenberger was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia at just 9 weeks old. Hello. But the treatment has so far gone well, and soon the 22-month-old can look forward to a life free of cancer.
He's quite a lively one now. At the start it was a bit touch and go, but as you can see she's definitely going really well.
How are you going, Chelsea?
Hello.
Oh. The Ruthenbergers relocated from Darwin for treatment at John Hunter Children's Hospital, which today celebrated 10 years of an expanded cancer service with a big new sign and cake to match. In January 1999, Dr. Frank Alvaro was the first oncologist appointed through money raised by NBN's telethon 2 years earlier. The new service would mean kids with cancer, like Andrew O'Malley, could be treated locally.
Always support here, the doctors, the nurses, therapists, psychologists, and they always got you through, no matter how down you were.
I mean, we are a smaller unit compared to the Sydney units, but I think we give them a more personalised service, and I think they really enjoy that.
Today, there are 3 oncologists working within what's become a very specialised team. It includes pharmacists, psychologists, a social worker, even play and music therapists. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
trying to get them through sleep deprivation as much as anything else. We chose 50 over format so that we could do that, supply them with some sleep time, while 2 were out batting, 2 were padded up, and then everyone else got to sleep while they could, sort of thing.
Proving they really want to promote Super 14 rugby outside Sydney, the Waratahs have set up camp in Cessnock this week, and how the Goannas would love a playing roster like this one. 6 Wallaby stars, including Lottie Takiri and Phil Waugh, return to the lineup to face Fiji, with 3 Hunter favourites in former Newcastle Knight Tamana Tahu and Maitland-bred players Jeremy Tills and Luke Burgess also selected to play.
It's nice when you can come back to a region where players have come from and the locals get a chance to see them performing.
Burgess's parents still live in Maitland, but he's not nervous about playing at home.
No, I'm excited. I'm happy that they don't have to travel too far this time around, but no, it's very exciting, and the opportunity to play at Energy Australia Stadium is fantastic.
Tahu returned to full contact training last week after injuries interrupted his first season in the 15-man game. He's now desperate to play against Fiji.
This week I'm hoping to get a run and get some game fitness up before the next trial and before the season starts.
Halfback Burgess says the Waratahs need consistency this season to provide a platform for he and Tahu to cement their Wallaby positions.
There's no certainty with spots, so I'll be looking to contribute and challenge myself, and I'm no good if I'm not at my best, so that's what I'll be focusing on.
The league convert looking to lock down inside centre.
There's Beric Barnes, Stephen Morglock, he's played 12. There's a few good 12s in Australia, so it's a good competition, and I'm looking forward to the rivalry.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Cheryl Salisbury cut a lonely figure today, but somehow that seemed appropriate. Her standing in the women's game is unlikely to be matched in the near future, if ever, but injuries have clearly taken their toll.
Enough is enough, and it's been a struggle the last few years just keeping up with the pace of the game and the body deteriorating at the same time, so comes a point where the mind's still willing, the body's just not going to follow.
From humble beginnings playing against the boys, she's now scored more goals for Australia than John Aloisi and Archie Thompson combined, and starred in 4 World Cups.
There was no real aspirations to play for Australia because running around at Newcastle as a 7-year-old little girl, I didn't even know other girls played soccer.
Salisbury says it's tough to choose just one highlight from her 17-year Matilda career, but that goal against Canada in the World Cup would go close.
That's probably the biggest thing that's ever happened in women's football here, and to be part of that team and to be the one that scored the goal, that's probably the biggest thing.
The 34-year-old will take a 6-month break from football before deciding whether to play in next season's W League with the Jets. She says the game will be fine without her.
For the girls to have professional leagues around the world that they can play at now, that was a dream that I never thought would happen when I first started playing.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
The exclusive Brethren erected this building without seeking any consent. Maitland City Council didn't even know the work was taking place until residents complained.
We had no idea of that. In local government you rely a lot on your community informing you, particularly about illegal development.
In 2004, the Brethren gained council approval to use the land as a place of worship. It's believed the Brethren then assumed it could build a high school on it.
And I'd like to think it's just a misunderstanding. I wouldn't like to think for 1 minute that it was a case of let's see how much we can get away with.
Neighbours aren't so sure.
So you can just think they can do whatever they want when they like.
Went away for a week, came back and look what you see here. It's just massive.
Our community, given that there has been absolutely no community consultation regarding the development, and we have serious concerns as to how the construction has gone ahead without the required local government controls and checks.
Residents say most of the construction here has been carried out over the past week, with work taking place as late as 11:30. Late today, the Brethren issued a statement saying they notified Council in November that they planned to put transportable buildings on the site and they believed they were within their rights to do so. Council has now issued a stop work order on the school and say the religious sect will have to lodge a development application and gain proper approval to continue with their project. Residents say they'll fight the development. They've already started a petition and since last night have collected more than 50 signatures. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Triplets Sam, Georgia and Cameron Perkins started back at Hamilton South Public today for what will be their final year in primary.
Do you get to boss them around?
Yes, I do. And I enjoy it very much.
The boys don't agree, then again brothers and sisters rarely do, be they Year 6 leaders or kindergarten kids.
We fight. Sometimes.
You do not fight.
Yes, we do.
Do you?
No, we don't. Yes, we do.
That's them in 2003. Today, though, and approaching life as young adults, they are looking to life beyond the classroom.
I enjoy hockey, so I want to play for the Australian Hockey League.
And Georgia, how about you? What do you want to do when you get older?
I want to play with the Australian Hockey League. Yeah.
And Samuel, are you going to tell us you want to play hockey too?
Mm-mm. He doesn't. I got hit in the head with a hockey stick, so I'm not going to play hockey. I'd rather be a vet or something like that.
Which brings us to the curriculum.
We're really taking information and communication technology to the limit so that teachers are upping their skills, and we're doing some great work in writing.
A humble lead pencil is all you need for that. Even so, it's the basics many parents will struggle to afford.
The numbers of people coming to us seeking assistance has increased significantly.
And so has the cost of educating a child. One agency estimates up to $5,500 per year for primary schoolers, secondary almost $6,000.
If some families are having trouble getting their kids back to school with the right equipment, they should approach Samaritans and we'll see if we can help them.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. David Faulkner is Deputy Leader of Newcastle upon Tyne Council in North East England.
Back home I live in Gosforth. I'm 3 miles from Wallsend. I'm 5 miles from Wickham. I'm 12 miles from Morpeth.
Of course, the climate is the telling difference, but Mr Faulkner can draw parallels between our harbour revitalisation and their river redevelopment.
The way in which we've been concentrating on developing tourism, the way in which we've been tackling our wonderful 19th century heritage buildings to bring them back into use.
Tomorrow he'll tour buildings around the city and some at the centre of rigorous debate.
Whenever there's a heritage argument about a building here, we need to keep that in mind.
Mr Faulkner paid for this trip himself and spoke to the council last night to encourage a better sister-city relationship and learn from each other. Lord Mayor John Tate has a bottle of brown ale bearing the office of his Geordie counterpart. But that's where the freebies stop, dismissing overseas trips to strengthen ties with other Newcastles, all 25 of them.
My judgment is that ratepayers would rather see their money spent in our city. That doesn't mean that we can't have a relationship that's productive at little cost.
We first saw the Australian flag misused and its ideals abused during the Cronulla riots, when mobs touting Aussie pride draped themselves in our national symbol. Unfortunately, that image now carries negative connotations. Around 60,000 people celebrated Australia Day on the Newcastle foreshore. While most were well behaved, others used it as an excuse for flat-out racism. The Ethnic Communities Council took part in celebrations and recorded 9 incidents.
The walking up and sort of saying, "What's this? What's all this WOG stuff? This is Australia, you know. This is we don't want this sort of stuff."
In Coffs Harbour, there was more bad behaviour when dozens became involved in drunken brawls.
You know, they seem to think that the wrapping themselves up in a flag is going to somehow change them, and it's not positive, it's not Australian, and it doesn't belong on Australia Day.
There's now concern some people use the flag to disguise racism as patriotism.
I'm a former army person and so on, and for me the flag has a lot of significance and meaning for me. And to have the flag draped around people who are behaving in a very un-Australian manner is quite frankly very affronting.
He says there's only one way to change the ugly behaviour.
Now, the reality is that people need to be educated.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The Waratahs played in last season's Super 14 final and their squad features 10 Wallabies, but some bookies have them ranked 8th to win the title. Try telling that to the players who trained for a second day in the searing Cessnock heat. As Wallaby regulars return, it's emerging players who will use the Fiji trial to impress. Several Waratahs who originally hail from northern New South Wales are among that group, including the Central Coast's Matt Carraro, Belmont's Daniel Halangahu and Yamba's Kane Douglas. Jeremy Tilse played in Maitland until moving to Sydney in 2002 to pursue a career in rowing. Now firmly focused on rugby, he's hoping for game time in front of the family.
Hunter Valley's got a great rugby support as well, so it's going to a lot of spectators there. It should be a great atmosphere. I'm looking forward to it.
Forwards Matt Dunning and Sekope Kepu are both out for an extended period with injuries, but Tilse still has to break into a front row filled with Wallabies.
To get in there is going to be quite tough. There's a few guys ahead of me at the moment, but hopefully a bit of persistence, I'll get there.
Kane Douglas, brother of Cronulla shark Luke Douglas, isn't that far off a starting spot, despite this being his first full off-season.
There's not that many second rows in front of me actually, so I don't want to wish an injury upon anyone, but I'm probably only an injury away from getting a game.
At just 19, he's got plenty of time.
I'm not too worried about it. Like, if it doesn't happen this year, that's fine.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
in the 15th of March 2006, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I decided while I was going through treatment, the very first day, I thought, well, I could get busy dying or get busy living, and on the first day of treatment I started planning my run around Australia to help raise money for the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Well, it is all about donating, so get onto the website. The website is www.runningpink.com.au.